It started with the fog. Thick and unnatural, it rolled across the highway like a living thing, swallowing the forest and the fading daylight behind me. My windshield wipers moved uselessly, squeaking over glass that wasn't even wet. The GPS had frozen 3 miles back, and my phone had lost all signal just after I passed the rusted sign that read, "Welcome to St. Grendel. Population scratched out." I should have turned around. Every instinct in me screamed to find a place to sleep outside this cursed mist. But my tank was near empty, and the town was supposed to have a gas station, according to the outdated map I kept in my glove box. I'd come here because of a name. St. Grendel had been circled in my sister's old journal, the last place she mentioned before she vanished 13 years ago. Her words were frantic and short. They watch. They listen. They need one who sees. I didn't understand it back then. Maybe I still don't. But something inside me refused to let it go. The engine coughed once, then died completely. Just like that. No sputter, no warning, like something had pulled the plug from underneath. I sat there for a full minute, hands frozen on the steering wheel, trying not to breathe too loud. Then the headlights flickered and went black. I stepped out into silence. Not just quiet, a silence so deep it pressed against my ears like being underwater. No wind. No bugs. Not even the sound of my boots crunching on gravel. The fog had thickened, wrapping around me like a cold, damp blanket. A bell rang in the distance. One slow, deliberate toll. I turned toward the sound. Through the haze, faint amber lights shimmered. A row of dim lamps lining the main road. Behind them, shadows of buildings stretched into darkness, houses with sagging roofs, windows with curtains that didn't move. St. Grendel. I walked. The town didn't greet me. It didn't feel abandoned, but it didn't feel alive either. Just paused, like it was waiting for something. Then I saw her. An old woman stood at the end of the road, near a crooked sign that read the Sleepy Pines Inn. Her gray hair was tied in a tight bun. She wore a green wool dress that belonged in another decade, and her smile was just a little too wide. "Mr. Velasquez?" she asked, before I could even introduce myself. "We've been expecting you." I stopped in my tracks. "How do you know my name?" She chuckled, like I'd told a charming joke. "You're the last one. The final piece." Her voice was soft, grandmotherly. But her eyes, they were glassy, unmoving, like they hadn't blinked in a while. I didn't answer. I just followed her inside. The inn smelled of cedar and dust. Faint whispers seemed to hum from the walls, like a radio between stations. She handed me a room key, metal, not plastic, with the number 3 etched into it. "You'll be comfortable here." "We made sure of it," she said, placing a hand on my arm. Her skin was ice cold. I wanted to ask what she meant, but my throat felt tight, like something unseen had wrapped around it. Room 3 was small. Bed, desk, cracked mirror. The window faced the street, but the fog made it impossible to see anything beyond a few feet. I tried to call someone, anyone, but my phone was still dead. Then the whispers grew louder. Not from the walls this time. From inside the closet. I froze. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob. The door creaked open slowly. Empty. But written on the inside, in red ink that looked far too fresh, were the words, "You see, you don't belong." I slammed it shut. Locked it. Pushed a chair in front for good measure. Sleep didn't come easy that night. And just before I drifted off, I heard that bell again, far away but clear. One slow toll, followed by a child's voice carried by the wind. "Don't blink when the sky turns red." I kept my eyes open for a long time. I woke up before the sun rose, still fully dressed. The room smelled like old wood and mothballs. The walls of the inn were thin. I could hear someone walking slowly upstairs, creaking the floorboard with each step. It could have been Mrs. Dalka, the innkeeper, but something about the rhythm made me uneasy. It didn't sound like walking, more like pacing. The clock beside my bed was dead. Not ticking, not glowing. The minute hand stuck between 2 and 3 like it didn't know where to go. I stood and walked to the window. Fog hugged the streets, thick like wet cotton. I could barely make out the shape of the trees across the road. But I saw something else too. A figure stood at the corner, perfectly still, watching the inn. I squinted, trying to make out a face. Nothing. No movement, no twitch, not even a breath. Just standing there, like it was waiting. I blinked, and it was gone. I didn't leave the room until the sun had clawed its way through the mist. St. Grendel looked different in daylight. Quaint, almost. Wooden houses with small fences. A grocery store with faded paint. People moved along the sidewalks, greeting each other with polite smiles and waves. But every smile was too perfect. Their eyes didn't match. Wide grins on blank faces. I walked toward the cafe across the square. A sign read, "Brewed and Bound. Coffee and books, my kind of place." As I stepped inside, a little brass bell jingled. A young girl sat alone at the far end, scribbling something in a notebook. The man at the counter, tall, pale, and far too quiet, handed me a black coffee without asking for my order. I stared at it. "How did you?" "Everyone starts with black," he said with a smile too stretched to be normal. "Cream and sugar come after acceptance." Acceptance? I didn't ask questions. I took the cup and walked to a corner table. The girl glanced at me. Maybe 10 years old. Curly hair, big eyes. She whispered something, but I couldn't hear. I looked away, pretending to be interested in the bookshelf near my table. Dusty novels. Journals with no titles. Then I heard her again, clear this time. "Don't blink when the sky turns red." I turned to face her. "What?" She kept writing in her notebook, pretending she hadn't spoken. I stood up, walked over. "What did you just say?" She looked up, eyes wide and flat. "I didn't say anything, mister." I stared at her for a few seconds. Her hands were trembling slightly. Her mouth formed a smile, but her eyes begged me not to believe it. I nodded slowly and backed away. Outside, I noticed something else. The same man who'd helped me at the gas station yesterday was standing across the street, still wearing the same clothes. His eyes never blinked as he watched me. Then another man, identical, stood beside him. Two of them. I looked around. People were stopping, freezing, just for a second, like something invisible passed through them. A pulse. Then they'd resume walking or talking like nothing had happened, like they were being rewound. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was tired. Maybe this town was getting under my skin. But deep down, I knew something was wrong here. And I knew that the only way to figure it out was to keep pretending I didn't notice. Keep watching. Keep quiet. I headed back toward the inn, but I took the long way, around the back alleys, past the rusted water tower. That's when I saw it. 3 squirrels, nailed to the trunk of a tree in a perfect triangle. Their eyes gouged out, replaced with polished stones. Beneath them, a symbol was carved into the bark, a spiral with jagged teeth. And something was written under it. "He who watches must be watched." Suddenly I felt it, a cold breath on the back of my neck. I turned fast, no one there. But I knew I was being followed. Not just by people, by whatever had hollowed them out. And I was starting to understand something that made my bones ache. They didn't want me gone. They wanted me to stay. And they wanted me awake. I woke up to the sound of static buzzing in my ears. Not from a TV or radio. Just inside my head. The sun outside the window was pale, like it hadn't fully risen. Everything looked tinted gray. The sky stretched out like a dusty bedsheet, heavy and unmoving. I checked my phone, no signal. Again. I grabbed my jacket, the one still damp from yesterday's storm, and decided to leave. I couldn't stay here. The air felt wrong. Too still. Too thick. I needed to get out before this place swallowed me like it did everything else. The main road was silent as I walked toward the edge of town. No birds. No cars. Just the soft crunch of gravel beneath my boots. I passed old houses, their windows closed, curtains drawn. But I could feel the eyes. Behind every curtain, someone or something was watching. That feeling crawled across my skin like cold fingers. When I reached the only road leading out, I saw it stretched endlessly through the woods, just like when I came in. I started walking. Miles passed. Or maybe minutes. Hard to tell. Trees lined both sides like tall, frozen sentinels. The fog thickened the farther I went. After what felt like an hour, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A rusted sign. St. Grendel, welcome home. It was the same sign I had passed on my way out. But I hadn't turned around. I know I hadn't. My legs stopped working. I stood there, staring at the sign, heart pounding in my throat. I looked behind me. Just trees. No turnoffs. No fork in the road. Nothing. I whispered to myself, trying to make sense of it. I walked straight. I didn't go back. The town had brought me back. Back to the beginning. Back to them. As I walked in, the streets were still empty. The silence was louder now, like it was pressing in on my eardrums. A static hum filled the air. I felt it more than heard it. Then I saw her. A little girl, no older than 10, standing barefoot near the edge of the park. Her hair was dark and tangled. She wore a white dress smudged with dirt. She didn't run or smile. She just looked at me with eyes far too knowing for her age. I hesitated, then stepped closer. "What's your name?" I asked gently. She didn't blink. "Lena." Are you okay? She tilted her head. Don't blink when the sky turns red. My mouth went dry. What do you mean? She turned and walked away, disappearing into the trees without another word. I stood there, breathing hard, watching the spot where she vanished. The silence swallowed her up. When I made it back to the inn, I noticed something new. Carvings on the wooden beam near the front door. Symbols. Circles, triangles, intersecting lines, all scorched into the wood like they'd been burned there long ago. I reached out to touch one. My fingers tingled. A sharp jolt ran up my arm. I stumbled back. Mrs. Dalka opened the front door. Her smile was too wide. Too practiced. Everything all right, dear? She asked, voice sweet and hollow. I nodded slowly. Just taking in the sights. Her eyes didn't move. Still locked on me like a doll's. You'll feel more at home soon. We all do. That night, I couldn't sleep. The whispers came again, closer this time. But not through the walls. They came from inside the closet. 3 words. Over and over again. You see now. I didn't open the door. I just sat there in the dark, knees pulled to my chest, waiting for the sun that never quite felt warm. Something was wrong with this place. And now it knew I knew. I woke up with a start. The bed beneath me felt colder than it should have. For a moment, I forgot where I was. The wooden ceiling above me creaked, as if something was crawling across it. A bird? A squirrel? No. It sounded heavier. I sat up, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. The town outside the window was soaked in thick morning fog. The trees looked like bones reaching out of the earth. There was a knock on the door. Not hurried. Not gentle either. Just deliberate. Mr. Velasquez? A voice called through the wood. Calm, deep, and rehearsed. Mayor Ire would like to see you. He's waiting in the town hall. The voice didn't wait for my answer. I stepped out a few minutes later, pulling on my jacket. The fog hadn't moved. It just pressed in on the town like a wet, dirty curtain. Town hall sat in the middle of St. Grendel, surrounded by crooked houses and empty benches. The building itself was surprisingly modern, too clean compared to the rest of this rotting place. Its white paint didn't peel. Its windows weren't cracked. It felt out of place, like a set piece dropped into an abandoned play. The door opened before I touched it, and there he was, Mayor Ire Marn. He wore a dark coat and stood perfectly still in the hallway, hands folded. His skin was pale like porcelain, and his black hair combed back in a way that looked dated. His smile was the worst part of all, wide, flawless, but empty. A smile that told you everything and nothing at the same time. Carlos, he said like we were old friends. It's good to see you settling in. I didn't shake his hand. I wasn't planning on settling, I said. His smile didn't change. None of us were in the beginning. He motioned for me to follow him down the hallway. The place smelled like lemon polish and something faintly metallic. Blood? No, probably just my nerves playing tricks. People here seem strange, I said. Strange, he chuckled softly. Strange is such a broad word, don't you think? What do you mean by it? They repeat things, I said. The same phrases. Same smiles. It's like they're not really alive, he offered, cutting in. Not present. I stopped walking. He turned slowly to face me. His eyes locked on mine. That smile still stretched across his face, but his voice dropped slightly. St. Grendel is a quiet town, Mr. Velasquez. We treasure peace. Routine. Stillness. He took a step closer. Sometimes newcomers find that unsettling. But I assure you, everyone here is very much aware. I swallowed. My mouth was dry. He changed the subject without blinking. I wanted to give you something. A gift. For your stay. From a drawer in his desk, he pulled out a small, old-fashioned key. It looked iron. Heavy. There was a symbol etched into the top, 3 circles overlapping. This opens the library, he said. Most of our visitors ignore it. But I think you might find it calming. I took the key slowly. I didn't say I'd stay. No, he said. But you will. And that was it. I left the town hall feeling like I had just escaped a trap, though I couldn't explain how. I walked fast, trying not to look behind me. Still, I felt his eyes on the back of my neck the whole way. That smile never left my mind. Not even once. When I reached my room, the fog was thicker than ever. I closed the door behind me, locked it twice, and placed the key on the desk. The metal was cold. Almost too cold. As I stared at it, the window across the room suddenly fogged up on the inside. I stepped closer. There, drawn into the glass with a finger, was a single word. Watch. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep that night. Even with the whispers quiet for once, and the wind outside still, my mind felt like it was crawling with insects. I kept flipping through my notebook under the covers, staring at the repeated phrases I'd jotted down from the townspeople. Words that seemed ordinary when spoken but felt rehearsed when read together. The wind has teeth. Salt keeps the silence clean. Some stay warm by forgetting. I needed answers, not riddles. The key Ire had given me was cold in my pocket, even through the denim of my jeans. It felt heavier than it should. At dawn, I headed for the library. St. Grendel's library looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Ivy crawled over the brick walls, and the windows were so dusty they looked painted shut. The front door creaked like something alive when I pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick, like someone had bottled silence and let it rot. There was no one behind the counter. No lights. Just rows and rows of shelves. They were dark with age, filled with books that smelled like old secrets. I walked slowly, my boots tapping against the floor, echoing far too loudly. The place felt like it was listening. I followed a strange pull to the back corner, a section labeled local histories. Most of the books were dry, founding stories, land deeds, family records. But then I saw them. 7 black journals. No titles. No authors. Just years etched in red ink on their spines. The earliest was from 1821. The latest, 1990. The exact year the quieting had last happened, according to the note I found in Mrs. Dalka's kitchen. I opened the one from 1957 first. The handwriting was shaky but readable. It was a man named Elijah Parlow, a traveling preacher who'd gotten stuck in town after his car hit a tree. His entries started curious, even hopeful. Day 2. The people are quiet but kind. Day 5. They ask me to stay for the quieting. Say it's a tradition. Day 7. I saw a woman speaking to a dead bird. It answered. His words started unraveling around day 10. They watch when they think I don't notice. They smile, but their eyes flicker. I tried leaving. The forest spun me around like a noose. I heard my own voice from inside the well. The last entry was chilling. Day 13. I am not me anymore. But something inside me still screams. If you read this, you are the last mind. Run. Or record it. Either way, they will come. My hands trembled. I moved on to the 1990 journal. This one was written by a woman named Sarah Neem. Her words were clipped. Paranoid. She'd arrived in St. Grendel looking for her missing brother. Her notes lined up with my own experiences. She mentioned the red sky, the strange smiles, the sound of bells with no source. But she also wrote something I hadn't yet seen. There is always a witness. Every cycle, one must remain aware until the binding is complete. The rest obey. One remembers. She said the witness wasn't just a target, it was fuel. The demon feeds on resistance, the final shred of human will, before it seals the ritual. She tried to kill herself before the binding. It didn't work. She woke up in the chapel, surrounded by people singing lullabies with their mouths open too wide. The last few pages were stuck together. When I pried them apart, I found a torn piece of parchment inside. The ink was faded, the language strange, ancient, maybe Latin. But one sentence stood out. One must remain aware until the offering. I dropped the book. My pulse pounded in my ears. All this time, I thought I was the lucky one, the only one untouched. But now I understood. I wasn't just a survivor. I was the final piece. A loud crash echoed through the building, like a shelf falling somewhere in the darkness. I froze. Then I heard it. Slow, steady footsteps. Not hurried. Not clumsy. Like someone sure of where I was. I grabbed the parchment and the 1990 journal, stuffing them into my jacket. The footsteps grew louder. I backed away from the shelves, trying not to breathe too loud, when a voice floated through the aisles. Did you find what you were looking for, Carlos? Ire. His voice was calm. Smooth. Too calm. You're reading the wrong stories, he said, his footsteps pausing just beyond the row of books. Let me show you the ending. I turned and bolted. I didn't look back, not even when the lights flickered on by themselves or when the whispering returned. This time louder, harsher, as if coming from every wall at once. I didn't stop until I was outside, bent over and gasping, the cool morning air cutting through the fog in my head. In my jacket, the parchment burned like fire against my chest. Now I knew the rules. Now I knew the ritual. And now they knew I knew. I was the witness. And I was running out of time. The fog that morning was heavier than usual. It pressed against the windows like something alive, thick and stubborn. The sun had tried to rise, but all it managed was a dim silver glow, like a flashlight behind a sheet. I hadn't slept. I couldn't. The whispers were getting louder, closer. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw faces I didn't recognize mouthing words I couldn't hear. I needed answers. That's when I remembered the barn. The old, rotting one near the edge of town. I'd passed it twice before, but never looked inside. Both times, something pulled me away, as if the air near it buzzed with warning. But now I didn't care. If the town wanted me to stay away, that meant something was inside. I stole through the narrow side streets, my boots crunching soft frost. St. Grendel felt different today. The townspeople weren't outside sweeping their porches or staring silently into the fog. It was as if they were all waiting for something, or hiding from it. The barn came into view through the haze. Its roof sagged in the middle, and the planks were split and discolored like old bones. I slipped inside through a side door, pushing it open slowly so it wouldn't groan. And there he was. A man sat in the far corner, wrapped in dirty blankets, chains clinking softly as he shifted. He wasn't dead, though he looked like death's neighbor. His beard was tangled with dried leaves, and one of his eyes was swollen shut. The other was sharp, alert. He looked at me like he'd been waiting. "You're not one of them," he said, voice rasping like sandpaper. "I can see it. You've still got a mind." I stepped closer, heart pounding. "Who are you?" I asked. He gave a bitter smile. "Name's Henry. Used to fix clocks in this town, before the clocks stopped mattering." The chains around his ankles were thick, bolted into the floor. Not just rusted iron, etched with strange carvings. Protective markings. Ones I'd seen in the old books back at the library. "Why are you chained?" I asked. "To keep me awake," he said simply. "If I sleep too long, they come into me. Like smoke through cracks. I fake it. That's how I've stayed free. Play the part during the day. Shake hands, nod, speak the script. But at night I come here, where they can't reach me." He coughed, and I handed him my water bottle. He drank greedily, some of it spilling down his chin. "You figured it out, haven't you?" he said, wiping his mouth. "They're not people anymore. Not really. They were the faces, speak the words. But something old is driving them. Something that feeds on silence and surrender." "Who?" I asked. "Who's behind it?" He leaned forward, eyes burning with something between fear and defiance. "Ire, or at least, that's the name he's wearing now. He's not human. Never was. He's a skin wrapped around something deeper. Something that crawled out of the roots beneath this place. Every 33 years, it wakes. It needs a town. It needs a witness." I froze. "What's a witness?" I asked. Henry laughed, low and joyless. "Someone who sees it all. Who doesn't break. The final soul, pure and whole. Saved for last. Like dessert." My mouth went dry. "They've chosen you," he said. "And you've already begun to see things, haven't you? The road looping. The bells ringing with no one pulling the rope. The little girl with the red eyes." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He nodded, satisfied. "There's a ritual. The quieting. They're preparing for it now. Once it starts, you won't have a chance. You'll either give in, or be torn apart." I crouched beside him. "How do I stop it?" His good eye darted toward the rafters, as if checking for invisible ears. "You'll need the original name. The true name of the thing. Ire is just a shell. The name binds it. That's how it controls them, and how you can unmake it. It's written somewhere in the church, under the altar." Before I could ask more, he grabbed my wrist. "You don't have long. They'll come for me soon. I said too much last night." "Then come with me," I said. "I'll break the chains." He shook his head. "No. These chains are the only thing keeping me. You break them, I'm theirs in minutes. I stay here. You go. Before they know you know." I stood, unsure, unwilling to leave him. But his voice hardened. "Run, Carlos." So I did. I slipped out of the barn, heart hammering, fog pressing close. As I ran, I looked back once, and saw Henry staring after me, smiling. Then, from deep within the barn, I heard it, the faintest sound of bells. And behind the bell's ring, something breathing. There's something wrong with their eyes. I knew it before, but tonight confirmed it. It started around dusk. I was walking along the edge of town, just past the old grocery store that hasn't sold anything fresh in years. The sky was bruised with deep orange and purple, and the wind felt thicker, almost sticky. That's the best way I can describe it, like walking through something alive. As I passed by the butcher's shop, Mrs. Dalka was standing in the window again. Same apron, same grin, same slow wave. She didn't blink. I waved back weakly, But the moment my hand dropped, her smile twitched too wide, just for a second, and then settled back into its place. I don't think she's real anymore. Or maybe she never was. I turned the corner onto Maple Street, and that's when I saw it. 3 kids were standing in a perfect triangle in the middle of the road. Their heads tilted slightly upward, like they were waiting for something. I called out to them, "Hey, are you okay?" They didn't respond. Not even a flinch. I walked closer. 20 feet. 10. And then, all 3 turned to look at me at the exact same moment. No hesitation. No delay. Like their heads were pulled by the same invisible string. Their eyes, God. I wish I hadn't looked. There was something behind them. Something pressing forward, like an extra layer under the iris, wriggling and flickering. One of the kids smiled and whispered, barely loud enough to hear, "You're the only one awake." I stepped back. They didn't follow. They just turned back to the sky and kept staring up. Like I didn't exist anymore. I ran. Not far. Just back to the inn. I slammed the door shut behind me and leaned against it, breathing hard. The light in the hallway flickered once, then went dark. I fumbled my way to my room, locked the door, and dropped to the floor. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Instead, I listened. To the creaks of the building. To the whispers in the hallway. To the soft thumps in the walls. Around midnight, I finally opened the curtain and peeked outside. That's when it happened. Everyone was outside. I mean everyone. Hundreds of people, men, women, children, all standing silently in the town square, facing in the same direction. Like statues. Like soldiers. I saw Ire too. He stood on the fountain's edge, arms stretched wide like a preacher in the middle of a sermon. His mouth moved, but there was no sound. Behind him, a tree had sprouted from the fountain, massive and black, covered in red leaves that pulsed like a heartbeat. Then, they all turned. Not their bodies. Just their heads. And every single one of them looked straight at me. I stepped back from the window, so fast I hit the bedpost and fell. My heart thudded so hard I could hear it in my ears. But the worst part? When I crawled back up and peeked again, the square was empty. Gone. Every one of them. Like they were never there. Like they had just wanted me to see. I don't know how much longer I can stay here. I don't know what's real anymore. But I do know this. Something is inside them. Watching me. And it's getting bolder. I woke up to knocking. Slow, soft, and steady. Like someone tapping a single knuckle against my door, over and over. I didn't remember falling asleep. I didn't remember lying down at all. I opened the door. 3 townspeople stood there, dressed in long, gray robes tied at the waist with red cords. Mrs. Dalka was one of them. She smiled, that hollow, too wide smile I'd grown to hate. "It's time, Carlos," she said softly. "For what?" She tilted her head. "The quieting. Rehearsal starts now." Before I could argue, they turned and started walking. Something inside me said not to resist, yet. So I followed, careful to stay alert, every step feeling like I was walking into a trap that had already closed. The town square was crowded. Everyone had gathered. I saw the butcher, the librarian, even Lena, the little girl who'd once warned me not to blink. They all wore the same robes. Same expression. Same emptiness. Ire stood in the center, holding a long staff topped with a blackened, rusted lantern. His robe was darker than the others. It had golden patterns stitched into it like branches or veins. "Welcome, witness," he said, his voice warm but oily. "We are honored by your presence." The crowd echoed in unison. "Honored by your presence." I said nothing. "Today," Ire continued, "we practice remembrance. We rehearse silence. We prepare for the binding." The binding. That word again. They began to chant. No music. Just voices layered on top of each other. Repeating sounds, syllables that made my ears ring. I recognized one word. They kept saying Iser. The name I'd read in the torn ritual page. Then they danced. Slow, synchronized movements. Hands raised. Eyes closed. Feet tracing the same pattern into the ground. I stood at the edge, unsure of what to do. I pretended to follow. Mimicked the arm movements. But my stomach twisted with every second that passed. Something deep in me was screaming, "They know." I looked around. Lena was staring straight at me. Her eyes were blank, but tears were streaming down her face. Then she mouthed something. "Don't move." And in that moment, the woman next to me broke. She dropped her hands and let out a raw, guttural scream. It didn't sound human. Her face twisted, bones shifting beneath her skin like something inside was trying to claw its way out. She lunged at me. "You're ruining everything," she shrieked, grabbing my shirt. her nails digging into my chest. The crowd didn't react. They just kept dancing, chanting. Ire didn't move either. He just watched. I shoved her off. She hit the ground hard, but didn't stop. She crawled toward me on all fours like an animal, eyes rolling back, mouth foaming. I ran. I don't remember how far I went. I just remember the trees, the cold air, the sound of the woman's laughter echoing behind me, then cutting off all at once. I ended up at the old church again. It was still boarded up, but this time, the door creaked open when I touched it. Inside, it smelled like dust, blood, and candle wax. The pews were rotten, broken. Cobwebs hung like curtains. And on the altar, something waited for me. An old leather-bound book, its pages crumbling at the edges. A woman's diary. I sat in the pew and read under the light of a broken stained-glass window. The entries were short, frantic. They smile when you scream. I faked the chant. They knew. They always know. I saw it in the woods. Its face is made of others. Her final entry. If you're reading this, it's already inside you. I closed the book, shaking. Behind the altar, I found something wrapped in cloth. A knife. The handle was bone. The blade etched with markings that pulsed faintly in the dark. As I held it, my mind felt clearer. Like fog lifting. They were trying to bind me, piece by piece. Not just through fear, but through repetition. Through routine. Through rehearsals. But now I had a way to cut back. I wasn't going to dance again. Not for them. Not for Ire. Not for the thing wearing the town like a mask. I woke up on the floor of my room with blood in my mouth. Not mine. I had no memory of how I got there. The door was locked from the inside. The windows sealed shut. My notebook lay beside me, pages torn out, scattered like dying leaves. My recorder was still running on the desk, red light blinking like an accusing eye. I picked it up and pressed play. My voice, raspy, barely mine, spoke from the speaker. They know I found the name. I don't remember when. But I said it. I think I said it out loud. I dropped the recorder. It clicked once, then fell silent. The clock said 6:06 a.m. The same time it had said last night, and the night before that. The town was stuck. I tried to gather myself. I changed clothes, splashed water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I flinched. For a brief second, my reflection didn't move the way I did. It blinked after me. Its eyes, they weren't mine. I had to find Henry. He was the only one who ever gave me real answers. The only one who ever broke the script. I grabbed the knife I found behind the church altar. I carried it everywhere now. I didn't know if it could actually hurt Ire or whatever he truly was, but it made me feel less naked. The morning fog outside was thick, clinging to my skin like breath. No birds. No wind. Just that heavy, dead silence. When I reached Henry's barn, I knew something was wrong before I even stepped inside. The door was open. It had never been opened before. Henry always kept it locked. Always. I called his name. No answer. I stepped inside slowly, the old wood groaning under my boots. The barn smelled like rot. And something else, burnt oil and iron. Then I saw him. Henry's body hung upside down from the rafters, arms spread like wings, eyes wide open and completely black. His mouth was stitched shut with what looked like human hair. On the wall behind him, painted in blood, was a symbol I hadn't seen before. A crooked circle with a single dot in the middle. Below it, words written in shaky strokes. One remained. I backed away. My stomach lurched, and I turned and vomited into the hay. He tried to warn me. He told me they'd come for him if he said too much. I didn't believe him. I thought maybe he was paranoid. Maybe he was going mad like I was. But no. They got him. They made an example of him. I staggered outside, shaking, breath coming in short gasps. The sky was beginning to turn. A strange reddish hue clung to the clouds. I heard the bells. Not the church bells. These were deeper, slower, and they came from the earth. Low and humming. Calling. I stumbled down the hill, back toward town, unsure of where I was going. The streets were empty. The houses still. And yet, I felt them watching. Behind curtains. Behind eyes. Behind skin. I passed a boy drawing on the sidewalk with chalk. He looked up and smiled. "You're next, Mr. Carlos." Then he continued drawing. A circle. A dot. The same mark that was on Henry's wall. I ran. I didn't know where, only away. From the child, from the barn, from what I had seen. My thoughts were breaking apart, slipping between my fingers. Time didn't make sense anymore. When I finally stopped, I found myself standing in front of the church again. The door creaked open for me, though I hadn't touched it. Inside, the candles were lit. I didn't light them. At the altar was my notebook, the one that had been torn apart in my room. It was whole again, and open to a page I hadn't written. It read, "The witness bleeds before the binding. The body cracks. The mind follows. And in the end, he will beg to be taken." I looked up. Ire stood at the back of the church, smiling, but he didn't speak. He only raised one hand and pointed at the stained glass window. It showed a man, my face, on a stone altar, eyes wide, mouth sewn shut. I blinked. He was gone, and I was alone again. Or at least, I thought I was. The sky turned red, not the soft kind of red you see during sunsets. This was raw, like the heavens were bleeding. I stood at my window frozen, staring up at it. Clouds swirled like they were being stirred by something huge, something alive. The air outside buzzed low, almost like a growl, and the trees, those tall pines surrounding St. Grendel, were shaking, though no wind blew. The bells started ringing again. Only this time, it wasn't just the church. It was every bell in town, school bells, bike bells, even the ones hanging over shop doors. They rang all at once, as if some invisible hand yanked them in rhythm. Ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. And just like that, I knew. Tonight was the quieting. I shoved my notebook and the carved knife I found in the church into my backpack. I didn't know what good it would do. The symbols looked old, older than any language I recognized. But I needed something. Anything. The streets were empty, yet I heard movement everywhere. Shoes scraping on gravel. Breathing. Chants whispered just beneath the surface of the air. As I crept down the main street, I saw figures walking toward the woods. Slow. Silent. Every man, woman, and child. They all moved the same way, like puppets tugged by invisible strings. Their eyes were wrong. Flat. Glowing faintly. No emotion. Just hunger. I followed them, careful to stay far enough behind. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted out. I gripped the knife so tight my fingers burned. They were gathering in the clearing near the hollowed-out tree. I'd passed that place once during the day. It used to be used for town bonfires, I think. But tonight it looked like something out of a nightmare. Torches circled the edge of the field, burning a sick green instead of orange. A stone slab sat at the center, stained with old, dark crusts. Around it stood the elders, the ones who never spoke, never blinked. And then he came. Ire. He stepped into the torchlight, calm, smiling. His face was smooth, too smooth, like skin stretched too tightly over a skull. His eyes shimmered black for a moment, so fast you might have missed it if you blinked. But I didn't blink. "Bring the witness," he said. 4 of them turned toward me before I even moved. I ran. I don't know how far I got, maybe a block, maybe 10 feet, but they were faster. Inhumanly fast. I remember falling, hitting my head, the taste of iron in my mouth. Next thing I knew, I was on the slab, strapped down. Arms out, eyes to the red sky. The chanting started. Low at first. Just sounds. Then words I didn't recognize. Words that didn't belong on any human tongue. Ire leaned over me, and up close I could see the truth. His face wasn't really his. It was a mask made of flesh. Beneath it, something rippled, twitched, smiled with too many teeth. "You've seen so much, Carlos," he said, his voice warm and soft like honey dripping into poison. "That's what we needed. A witness. Someone to taste fear. To know truth. And then, to surrender." He touched my forehead. It burned. Images flooded my mind. A child screaming in an attic. A man walking into the lake and never coming back up. A door carved from bone. A name echoing in 100 mouths. Ire. 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 I screamed. Not from pain, but because something inside me cracked. Like a mirror shattering. I felt my memories slipping, my name unraveling. The town was eating me. Slowly. Carefully. Then in the chaos, I remembered the knife. I shifted my wrist. The leather strap was loose, just barely. I twisted. Dug the blade out of my backpack. I stabbed the air. I stabbed nothing. Then I stabbed his arm. The knife went in. Ire staggered back, howling, not in pain, but in surprise. As if I'd broken a rule no one had broken before. The chanting stopped. The people stopped. Their eyes blinked, actually blinked, for the first time in hours. The torches flickered. Ire clutched his wound, black smoke pouring from it like thick ink. He looked down at me, snarling. "You don't know what you've done." But I did. I had cracked the ritual. And I wasn't going to let them finish it. I don't remember how they dragged me there. One moment I was hiding in the church basement, clutching the demon-carved knife in one hand and a crumbling journal in the other. The next, I was on my back, bound to a slab of stone that pulsed beneath me like it was breathing. The sky above me had turned red, blood red. No stars, no moon. Just a thick, seething crimson that hung low and heavy, like the sky itself was watching. The forest clearing was full of them. The townspeople, all of them standing perfectly still, eyes wide, faces blank. Children, elders, shopkeepers, even Mrs. Dalka. They stood in a circle, their mouths moving in unison, but with no sound at first. Then it started. A low hum, like bees buzzing in a jar. It grew louder, deeper, until it filled my chest like it was trying to crawl inside. My teeth vibrated. My ears felt wet. And then he stepped forward. Ire. But he wasn't pretending anymore. No friendly smile, no warm words. His skin peeled back as he walked, layer by layer, until what stood in front of me wasn't a man. His face was long and thin, stretched too wide. His eyes were holes. Just black pits that pulled light into them. His mouth opened too far, and the voice that came out wasn't his. It was many voices, all speaking at once. Young and old. Male and female. Human and something else. You are the witness, Carlos, the voices said. You see what others cannot. And now you will see us completely. I tried to scream, but the words wouldn't leave my throat. The stone beneath me burned cold. My fingers twitched around the hidden knife. They hadn't searched me well enough. Around the circle, the people raised their arms. Their hands opened like flower petals, revealing extra fingers, writhing like worms. The hum became a chant. I couldn't understand the language, but my body reacted anyway. My heart raced. My skin turned to ice. My vision doubled, then blurred, then cleared again, sharper than before. Something ancient was waking. Ire, or the thing inside him, placed a hand on my chest. It sank through my shirt like smoke, and I felt it reaching for something deeper. Not my heart. My will. I heard whispers in my head. My sister's voice. My father's. Then my own, telling me to just give in. It would be easier. Peaceful. But I remembered Henry's words. I remembered Lena's warning. I remembered who I was. With a sudden breath, I jerked my arm free. Pain split my shoulder, but I didn't care. I plunged the knife upward, right into Ire's chest. The reaction was instant. He screamed, a high, broken sound that shattered the chanting. The townsfolk gasped in one voice and froze. The sky flickered. The red faded to black for a moment, then returned in a pulse. Like a heartbeat. Ire staggered back. The wound oozed thick black smoke instead of blood. He looked at me, not in anger, but surprise. You spoke the name, he hissed. I looked down. The journal was still clutched in my free hand, pages flapping wildly in the wind. There it was, the name. Scrawled over and over in frantic handwriting. Ire. I said it again. Ire. The earth shook. The townspeople dropped to their knees, screaming. Their voices weren't theirs anymore. Some screamed in reverse, some like metal grinding against stone. Faces twisted. Bodies convulsed. The sky began to tear, a long crack of darkness splitting it open like a wound. Ire lunged at me, but he was slower now. Flickering. Unstable. I drove the knife in again, this time into his throat. Your ritual is broken, I whispered. I saw through it. You needed a witness, and I refused to forget. His mouth opened, and something huge tried to crawl out. I never saw what it was, just a glimpse of limbs, eyes, and smoke. But it never got free. It collapsed inward, swallowed by itself, and then silence. Real silence. Not just the end of noise. The end of presence. The townspeople were gone. Or maybe never real at all. The sky was black again. The stone slab beneath me was cold, but no longer alive. The forest whispered only with wind. I stood up, shaking. My arm bled, my knees buckled, but I was still me. Still here. But I couldn't help wondering. Had I truly broken the ritual? Or had I just become part of it? I picked up the journal and walked toward the road. There was no one left to stop me. But the air felt different. Like something had followed me out. And in the trees, the silence wasn't empty. It was watching. I woke up choking on silence. The forest around me was still. Too still. No rustling of leaves. No birdsong. Just cold air pressing against my skin like a warning. I blinked against the pale morning light, struggling to remember where I was, why my clothes were torn, why my hands were stained with something dark and dried. Then it all came flooding back. The red moon. The stone altar. Ire's twisted form rising like smoke from inside the earth. The chanting. The knife. Lena's whisper, you saw. You chose. I looked around. No one was there. St. Grendel was gone. I staggered to my feet. My limbs felt heavy, like I hadn't moved in days. Pine trees surrounded me, tall and indifferent. The dirt road stretched ahead, just like it had the day I arrived, but now it felt unfamiliar. I turned in circles, scanning the treeline for the church, the bell tower, the diner, even a street sign. Nothing. No town. No trace of it. But my car was there, sitting just off the road like it had never broken down. Its windows fogged but otherwise untouched. The key was still in the ignition. I got in, hands trembling, and turned it. It started on the first try. I sat back, stunned, as the engine hummed gently beneath me. After everything, the voices, the illusions, the demon, my car simply started. As if I was being told to go. As if someone, or something, wanted me to leave now. I pulled onto the road, heart pounding in my chest. Trees passed by on either side. The fog was thinner now. Morning sun leaked through the branches in pale strips. A mile down, I saw it, a weathered road sign leaning to the right. Welcome to St. Grendel. Population. There was no number. Just a blank space where it should have been. The letters were faded, cracked by time or something worse. I slowed down as I passed it, and that's when it happened. The sign flickered. Like a TV screen with bad reception. The letters shimmered, shifted, and for a split second the words changed. You never left. Then it was back to normal. Just a rusted welcome sign, swaying slightly in the breeze. I kept driving. The highway eventually opened ahead, and I took it like a man escaping a nightmare. I didn't look back. Not once. I told myself I was free. That it was over. But I knew better. That night, I stayed in a motel on the edge of a nameless town. I tried to sleep, but something felt off. The air was too quiet. The walls too thin. My reflection in the mirror across the room felt wrong. It moved like me. It blinked when I blinked. But there was something in its eyes. A flicker. A shadow. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my old tape recorder. I didn't remember bringing it with me, but there it was in my bag. Same cracked buttons. Same faint hum. I pressed play. My voice came through low and shaky. If you're hearing this, you escaped. But you brought something back. I stared at the recorder, throat tight. I don't remember ever recording that. Outside, the wind picked up. A knock echoed on the motel door. Then another. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't answer. Instead, I looked back at the mirror. My reflection was still staring. But this time it smiled. And its lips didn't move the same way mine did. And then it whispered. You're the witness now. Carlos. And they're still watching. I didn't sleep that night. And I don't think I ever will again.